And we are live here to chat about tonight's episode of Arrow entitled Doppelganger. It's episode 15 of season 6. This is recorded live right after. And I'm here to hear all your thoughts and to talk about everything. Let's just address the elephant in the room. I'm wearing glasses for the first time. I know that's what you were all thinking. It is. It's what you were all thinking. But we've talked about it now. So that's over. That's done. It's dealt with, and we can talk about tonight's episode of Arrow. I always like to start with a rating on a scale from 1 to 5, so we could do that. I've started the thing where now every other week I have a guest on with me. This is the off week. Last week I had Jordan. Next week, well, it won't be next week because we're going on hiatus for 2 weeks, but when we return after this episode, I'll have another guest with me. And for tonight, you guys are the guests. So I'll be reading out any comment that you guys post and actually answering your questions. And there won't be any delays. It'll be all about what you guys have to say. So let's start by rating the episode. I was going to make the joke that like this week the guest is my glasses, but like that's just cheesy. So we won't do that. Like they're here. I'm sorry. Anyways. On a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being terrible, you want your money back, 5 being fantastic, best episode of Arrow ever, I personally would give this episode a strong, like maybe 4.2 or so. I really enjoyed it. There were a few things that kind of automatically bump up the rating for me. I loved that there weren't a lot of like inter-team fighting moments because we didn't really have to deal with like new team Arrow or the timeout trio or like whatever we're calling them from week to week. We didn't have to deal with them very much this week. It was pretty much just Steina, and it wasn't as part of a team. She just kind of wanted to kill Black Siren, and that truce was called kind of early, and that doesn't really bother me anyways, because I don't mind if somebody wants to kill Black Siren. So it was chill. And we didn't have to deal with Renee. We didn't have to deal with any of that. I really liked a lot of it. Looking in the chat from what you guys have to say, it seems like you guys are kind of feeling that vibe as well. Stormy says I give it a 4. That's the highest Stormy's given it in a while. So that's pretty good. Brian Perez says I would give it a 4.5. Brian, that is good. That's like a solid, if you converted it to a grade scale, that's like an A, right? That's pretty good. I thought there was a lot of positive moments. Stormy says it's nice not having Renee and Curtis. They weren't missed. Right. Like we got a second of Curtis there, where he was helping out with Renee's daughter, but that was chill. There wasn't really anything negative there. He wasn't fighting with anybody, or like we've had some issues for the past couple weeks saying like Curtis is kind of being a hypocrite, which like he is, but this week he was being useful and he wasn't in the way. He wasn't fighting the team. There wouldn't have been very much room for anybody to fight the team this week because they kind of had a lot on their plate, right? And they kind of only half succeeded in their mission in the end. So in the end of this week's episode, we had them succeed in the aspect that they were able to save Roy, but they weren't able to succeed, of course, unsurprisingly, in actually capturing Dragon. And there was a lot that kind of unfolded when they realized just how far this goes in terms of who he's got his talons into to kind of continue with the dragon thing. I'm so sorry. Are you guys doing any better at taking Dragon seriously? Because I know I, for one, did not love Dragon to start with. I'm kind of open to being convinced. This is the first episode we've had so far where Dragon is present and we know that he's the big bad. Were you convinced? Did you buy into that? Jumping in the chat, just a fan fave says, I love Felicity's skirt. Oh my goodness, she looked gorgeous in tonight's episode overall, but I also just love the fashion overall in tonight's episode because we knew that Thea was going to, not to swerve away from Felicity's beauty, because like, solid, but we also knew Thea was going to be suiting up in tonight's episode. And prior to that, we see her in like this dark red power suit that it's kind of like, it's just sort of foreshadowing that like sis is about to suit up. I loved it. Stormy says having Thea back in the field made me so happy. Her getting to save Roy was such a nice role reversal. Yes, wasn't that lovely? See, I was never really a big Thea Roy shipper. I didn't really care one way or the other. I didn't dislike it, but it was just sort of there. But they really sold me on it tonight because A, the role reversal, and B, we really got my phone thinks I said okay Google or something. So it's like, yeah, okay, calm down. So we really got to see the passion that is behind it, and we got to see that Roy has been waiting this entire time. She had kind of told him, go off, have a wife and kids in a minivan and all that, and he was like, guess what, I didn't do any of that. So I don't know, it was kind of cool. By the end of this whole thing, they really sold it to me, so I liked it. Carrie Johnson says, I give it a 4, but Ollie at the end thanking Black Siren seemed strange unless he is playing her. Ooh, I like the way you think. See, I have had some real issues, like character consistency issues, with the way they've written Oliver reacting to Black Siren, and also the way they've written other characters talking about the way Oliver reacts to Black Siren. I know that's super specific, but I'm going to explain what I mean. They've written Oliver as sort of not shaken by Black Siren, but kind of just like easily convinced by her. I don't know how to put it, but the way they've had all the other characters talk about him reacting to her is that they say that he has a soft spot for her. Now, I'm not sure exactly what it is I don't like about the way he reacts to her, but it isn't that he has a soft spot, because he's actually pretty like logical and reasonable. Like at the end of last week's episode, he was literally just saving her because he had to save her. Not really saving her, but like letting her get away so that he could get the money in return. And he's like, I don't want to see your face again. I'm only saving you because I have, like he's not like going easy on her. He's not being unjustly positive towards a villain, but he just sort of seems very like emotionally closed off to other people talking about her. I don't know. There's something weird about it. Not liking it. But I'm wondering if he's playing her too. That's possible. Just a fan fave says, I only saw the first half of the episode. Sis, I'm so sorry. We're going to talk about spoilers. Are you cool with spoilers? If you're not cool with spoilers, you can pause and come back to this. If you are cool with spoilers, let's get to spoilers. Brian Press says, I'm giving Dragon a chance, but they still need to do more convincing. Yeah, I feel like they had this, like, we're going to show him fighting a guy, like, as a training thing, and he'll win, and then you guys are going to believe he's, like, this big bad villain, and, like, he kind of just seems like a knockoff Prometheus, who was it that was tweeting that he's like a knockoff some villain from a movie? He's sort of like a combination of like every formidable Godfather type of character, but like the Walmart version. I'm so sorry, Walmart. Stormy says, wild prediction, I totally think Black Siren and Dragon are going to have sex. The CW, people have sex? He was flirting with her and she was brought to him. Interesting. Let me tell you, I have been okay, even before this Laurel character became evil, or we got the evil incarnation of her, way back in season 2, I was saying that actual Laurel Lance, should have been sort of partnered up / fell in love with Slade, because I always felt like this sort of character, I never bought her ever falling for the good guy. Like it just, like she's the one who's like, I know justice, and kind of, a little bit of a stick up, you know what I'm saying? And it just felt like for her to actually fall in love and for it to be believable and kind of a different storyline for her, it would be more interesting to see her fall for like a bad guy, like a villain, and then maybe she becomes his soft spot, or maybe she just goes dark. And in the end, we now do see that this character is a villain, the Earth 2 version of her, and I don't know what you guys think, but I think she's a million times more engaging as a villain than she ever was as like a hero / civilian character. And so it would make perfect sense for her to fall for a villain. And I don't know, maybe that would make Dragon more interesting. Maybe, something's got to make either of them more interesting. So maybe like some sort of Bonnie and Clyde sort of situation with them. They've really tried for a Bonnie and Clyde vibe like several times on Flash with some of the villains, and it really like was not working for me, but maybe this time it'll work. Just a fan fave says, I'm cool with spoilers, bring it on. Thank you. And she asked, what did you think of John wanting to hood up? See, this has been something that we kind of knew was coming. I think the actors or the producers had kind of teased it or talked about the fact that it was coming, that Diggle would kind of get the itch to suit up as Green Arrow again. It makes sense because I think that there was a lot of unexplored story specifically for Diggle when he was the Green Arrow, that could still be explored with him as the Green Arrow, because when he was the Green Arrow, it was a fantastic run and I loved it, but I felt like a lot of his story had to do with other people. Like a lot of his story as the Green Arrow was tied to Dinah being the Black Canary, and they sort of developed this partnership. That's fantastic. It's cool, whatever. But I wanted to see him explore his moral compass as the Green Arrow and how his Green Arrow is a little bit different than Oliver's Green Arrow, because I do think that they have slightly different, you know, heroic styles, but they both fall under the umbrella of what the Green Arrow represents. But there was starting to be some tension, I think, for Diggle in relation to how he and Oliver were juggling their difference in opinions, how he and his wife were juggling their difference in opinions, because his wife is Argus, and so that's going to be a different moral set entirely. And I don't think a lot of that was resolved, so I would love to see them go back to that. So that wasn't really surprising, but I'm not sure if that's going to create conflict for him and Oliver. Felicity is an excellent go-between when it comes to that. As long as Felicity's involved in that storyline, she's going to make sure Oliver and Diggle work that out in a like stable and sustainable way. Stormy says, I'll never be a Laurel fan, but yeah, Katie actually works as a villain. Credit where credit's due. Like, you know, when it comes to fight scenes, no, but when it comes to just like the talking scenes, like she sells it. She does the whole like, you know, manipulative, whatever. The only criticism I think I have with the acting, and it's really just more an issue with the blocking of the scene overall, is one of the very first scenes that we have in tonight's episode, where it's Oliver, Quentin, Thea, and Black Siren all in the police room where Caden had been killed. So we had Oliver and Quentin on one side, Thea on the other, and Black Siren pacing between them. And the pacing got a real, the whole, like, this person's going to talk, so I'll pace over here. This person's going to talk, so I'll pace over here. And that's just a blocking thing. Like, I don't really think that's an acting choice at all. That was really weird. I think they should have expanded that or had her stop pacing, because I think that they kind of are trying to make that her thing of, like, pacing, and we're going to, like, hint the fact that she's going to be, like, going between both sides and that whole thing. And, like, I get it, but it was just very on the nose. But when it comes to actually selling the lines, she sells a villain line. It's fine. She does it. It's cool. All right. Carrie says, it still bugs me that Siren is being treated like a pawn or a side piece. I want to see her own motivations. In my opinion, if they had not dragged out the Siren and Quentin redemption arc for as long as it went, it would have been a very natural story progression for her to have been the big bad of this season. I know a lot of people don't really think so, because I know I've seen in the chat and I've seen on social media and stuff before, a lot of people are saying she couldn't really sell it as a big bad. I get it. That may be true, but I'm not sure Dragon's selling it as a big bad either. So I don't, you know, it's not like we have better options. It's not like Prometheus's twin brother is back around again, or, you know, Huntress or whatever. Oh, Huntress, not a villain. She's an anti-hero, but you get what I'm saying. So between the options, you know, when we're kind of like, who's going to be our villain? If they had not, you know, saddled her with Quentin's like whole daddy pain thing for so long, and we were at that point done with the fact that like she's not going to get redeemed, she would have made more sense to take over the team, because she bears the face of a former friend of theirs and all of that sort of stuff, and because her whole shtick as a villain is that she's supposed to be very manipulative and can get under your skin, and, you know, is willing to go to the medium, willing to do all of that. It makes sense as an opposition for a mayor / vigilante, and for everybody that he's with. Like, she could, you know, scream and blow up the entire lair and destroy Felicity's tech. She can, you know, get under Oliver's skin. She can get under Quentin's skin. You know, so that would have made sense. I wouldn't have loved it, but I don't love either of our two choices. So, but we didn't get that. And maybe Dragon will be great. And maybe I'll be like, wow, I'm so glad we didn't have to deal with Black Siren being the villain all season, the big bad, whatever. But I don't know. I guess we'll never know. Amanda says, I love this episode. I can even tolerate the Black Siren bits. Yeah, that's where I'm at with this. And like, I don't want to get too comfortable, because if they try to like pull another switch at the end and they're like, surprise, she actually turned on, I forget his name every time. Like, if I go 30 seconds without saying it, Dragon. I swear to God, if he's not on screen, I've already forgotten who he is. Anyways, she turned on him, and now she's going to try to be Laurel again. I swear to God, I will be so mad, because that's boring as hell. Like, we already went through Laurel. I did my time, 12 years, and no, I'm kidding. I would hate that. But if they keep her as a villain, I'm down. It's fine. Like, you know. Bruna says, I love this episode. I'm seeing so much positivity for this episode, especially, I think, coming off of last week's episode, where I think, like, at least 95% of the people that I talked to hated it. I don't really know why I even need headphones in because all I'm doing is like hearing my voice again, and I hate my voice. Well, I'm not even really hearing that. Amanda says, "Yeah, I like Katie Cassidy being dissimulated. She's very good at that." Yeah. They should have had her as a villain all along, or they should have switched her to being a villain by falling in love with Slade in season 2, just because I'm really attached to that, because that was my idea. Stormy says, I'm bummed Nissa is coming back to apparently force Thea to be in the League of Assassins. Hasn't Thea paid enough being Malcolm Merlin's daughter? See, I'm bummed that Thea's gonna have to go through some harder times, but we've gone through so long without a Thea storyline, like without anything good for her. In fact, we've gone so long without Thea just in general that now that she's just suited up, like she's just suited up this episode, I'm kind of okay with the fact that she may have to fight a little bit. And I know that her send off is supposed to be her being sent off with Roy to ride off into the sunset and, like, you know, live on the run and have little red leathered babies together or something. And it's chill. Like, if they have that, that's great. That's better than her dying, that's for sure. If that's how, if the options were either she gets sent off with Roy or she's going to die, I would prefer her to be sent off with Roy, I guess. But if it's sort of like either she's going to be sent off with Roy or she's going to go do some time with the League of Assassins. Ooh, this is Arrow. She's the daughter of Malcolm Merlin and the daughter of Moira Queen, sister to the Green Arrow, Thea, Merlin Queen herself. If she's heir to Ra's al Ghul, like, and that's actually the case, I don't know. I'm not really opposed to that. I know she's already done the training with Malcolm, but and I know it'd be hard. I know it's not like her ideal send off. It's not what she wanted. And maybe I should just be rooting for what she wants, which is to run off and have a minivan of kids with Roy. But maybe it'd be more interesting if she was like the next heir to the demon. I don't know. What do you guys think? Carrie says, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I'm so excited to see what Nissa has done with what's left of the league she's dismantled. Assassins should always be part of the Arrowverse. I love assassins being part of the Arrowverse. I would take an assassin over a meta any day. I also love Nissa just being back in general. I wish they would actually have Nissa show up more on Legends, maybe with Sarah. Maybe I would actually start consistently watching Legends if they did that. It would be cool. Also, I just love Katrina in general. I hope she has some good scenes with Thea. Amanda says, no, Roy hates minivans. You're right. Maybe they would just have like a nice soccer mom car with room for kids in the back. I don't know why I'm just assuming they'd have kids, but like it's the CW when you run off with a guy, you have kids, I guess. I feel like that's just sort of the thing. Stormy says, I want Thea's happiness. The girl has been through so much. I'm with you. I want Thea's happiness because she has been through so much, but I also want like a storyline for her. And it's like, I know I can't have that. I know she's leaving in a couple episodes. Spoilers, she's leaving in a couple episodes. Or she might actually be leaving next episode. I don't know when exactly it is. She's leaving very soon. And I know I can't have a storyline after that. So maybe me clinging to some idea that she might be off with the League of Assassins or something is my idea of clinging to a story. I don't know. I really am fine either way. I'm just not strongly opposed to her running off with the League of Assassins, I guess. Amanda says Sarah has a new girlfriend. Bummer. I mean, bummer for us who like Sarah and Nissa together, but like not so much a bummer for Sarah who has a hot girlfriend now. I think her name's Ava, right? I've seen some pictures of them. They're cute. Stormy says, I loved Sarah and Nissa. I miss that pairing. See, Sarah and Nissa, they were such a good pairing because they were like assassin girlfriends together. But too often when you have like two heroic suited up people together, it just ends up seeming like two people dating themselves. And Sarah and Nissa were not like that. So they were like this rare pair where they could both be like fighting and being awesome together, but so strongly different in terms of personalities that they were still interesting. That was always my opposition to Oliver dating like some sort of suited up hero, because it's like he'd just be dating himself, like two broody people sitting alone together. Like that's so boring. And so that's why I love that he's not with somebody like that. Sarah and Nissa were not exactly like that. So that was cool. Stormy says it's Ava. Amanda says it's Ava Sharp, very close to Evelyn Sharp. Ooh, interesting. Any relation? Bruno says, I want Thea to be badass and happy. I do too, but if I had to pick between her being badass or happy, what would I pick? We just don't know. We don't know. I'd probably be nice and pick happy, I guess. I guess she can go run off with Roy, the Abercrombie model. He's all right. He seemed like he aged a lot between when we last saw him and this episode. But I guess if I looked at any of our characters in the last, 2 or 3 years, I would probably see that as well if I wasn't seeing them on a weekly basis and stuff. Of the characters, I think there's a few that really have like aged a lot. Like the characters, not the actors, not throwing anybody under the bus, who have aged a lot in the last couple of years. Carrie says, spoiler, Ava has a secret that could doom that relationship. So Nissa, in my Dumb and Dumber voice, so you're saying there's a chance. Yeah. Yeah, interesting shippy stuff going on there on Legends. I hear that's a good show for ships these days. I don't watch it as regularly as I should. I should drop Flash and watch Legends instead, but like my love for Killer Frost is keeping me with Flash. I don't know. You guys watch any of the other DC shows? Amanda says he gained weight. He's got married, so that's a given. So I think she's saying Oliver is the one who's aged the most. I think he has aged the most, but he always seems oldest when he's not with Felicity. When he is with Felicity, it's suddenly like lit from within, glowing. Like if you notice the first half of this episode, Oliver seemed like so down and like grumpy and like old and, and all of that. And then he has like literally 60 seconds of like this pep talk with Felicity where she's like, you can't get emotional and blame yourself and get guilty and all that sort of stuff. And then they like kiss for 2 seconds. And immediately afterwards, he's like ready to take on the world, glowing from within, completely like, like walking down New York Fashion Week, stomping, you get all my references, maybe. Amanda says, no, Roy. Stormy says, I watched Legends and Black Lightning. Black Lightning, that is a excellent show. Amanda says, I mean Golden Hate. Jaden Patel says, most of the season I thought they were turning Dinah Drake bad and Black Siren good, but this episode confused me because it was showing Siren is bad and Dinah is good. Matt Shamlu says, love how Oliver shut Dinah down. Ooh, let's unpack these. We have time. Jaden, I'm with you, and I've heard that opinion / theory from a few people now. You've expressed it really well and concisely, though, that they took Dinah kind of down a dark path and then made us wonder if Black Siren was being redeemed. And so we kind of wondered, is one screamer going to be subbed out for another on this team if this team is keeping a screamer at all? You know what I mean? I mean that in the nicest way possible. But this episode, they show that Dinah's willing to like, okay, I guess we won't kill her if we need her for like information or we need her to not expose our identity or whatever. And then they show Black Siren at any given chance is willing to turn on them, which we knew because that's her one and only defining character trait that makes her relevant to the show. So that's solid. Matt saying, love how Oliver shut Dinah down. Yeah, that was really interesting because I don't know. I kind of had a problem at the end of last half of the season, like around the mid-season finale, when Renee was exposed to be the, bad guy, mole, annoying person we knew he was all along. I didn't like the way that they would talk to Dinah because, like, I wasn't Team Dinah. I had no horse in that race. But I felt like when it came to Renee, they were, like, immediately ready to forgive him. Or when it came to Curtis, they were immediately ready to bed. But when it came to Dinah, they were like, how dare you do this? You know what I mean? So I have this, like, knee-jerk reaction of, like, at least talk to her, like, with respect. She's a fellow hero. She's trying to do good, whatever. But after the last couple episodes were like, she went into a trap that they told her not to go into, and her fiance died because of it. Like, not to blame her, but like that's what happened. And she's refused to admit her mistakes. She was going after somebody who had all the money to like save the city. And the whole thing last episode, I think, was really important in that NTA didn't care about getting the money back for the city, but the money that would go back to help the city, that was going to help with like social services and things like basically keeping poor people alive. That's important. Those are civilian lives, the most vulnerable civilian lives. So the fact that they were all kind of willing to go after Black Siren instead, I was like, I get it. I kind of want Black Siren dead sometimes too, but you got to chill with that. So because Dinah went through that whole thing and she was refusing to see the logic in Oliver's plans, going after her whole thing, I just didn't like the way she was written. It made perfect sense to me that at this point, when he's going out into the field, he would be like, actually, I don't trust you out in the field with me. Sorry. And I appreciated that shutdown because actions have consequences. And when you lose trust, that has consequences. So I was okay with that. And I didn't find it disrespectful. It seemed on par with what she had brought on herself. Carrie says, I watch them all, but Flash feels like an obligation. So with you. Black Lightning is the best. Legends is the most fun. Yeah, I was on a panel this last weekend for a sci-fi and fantasy con, and they were like, what's your favorite DC show so far or currently? And I'm like, normally I would answer Arrow, but I think right now it's Black Lightning, and it really is blowing me away. Love it. Love Nissa. Favorite character on it. Stormy says Oliver's facial expression with any version of Laurel is the picture of misery around Felicity's happy and love man. Maybe that's why maybe that's the thing that's bothering me with him and Black Siren, is that he just seems so miserable when he's around her. Is that it? I wonder. Maybe that's what I can put my finger on. She says, I agree with Oliver. Dinah and Oliver don't trust each other, so that's not a good dynamic in the field. See, yeah, I feel like I don't mind either of them as a hero. They just work terribly together, and I don't want them on the same team ever. Matt says, I think Laurel will play both sides until the end, where she dies for the team. Ooh, interesting. Put a pin in that. You might be right. Stormy says, I could see Quentin dying because of Black Siren. As crazy as he's been, I can't say I would be sad. He's been so annoying this season. They've really run out of material for him, and his storyline this season, trying to redeem Black Siren, has been tragic. I love Paul Blackthorne, but yeah, has not been the best. Would not mind him being put out of that misery. Matt says, I can't see anybody really buying Laurel turning good, Black Siren turning good for season 7 if there is one, and I think that her dying for the team is the ultimate sign that she was redeemed. That would be true if they did want to redeem her, but it's just, Laurel already died for the team, died while on the team, however you consider it. She got stabbed while out in the field at one point. So I don't know if that would just be a repeat with Black Siren, but I guess if they just really wanted to prove that she could change, if that was somehow relevant to the story, that would be good. Or she could kind of just be like, never mind to both y'all, I'm leaving, and just sort of like peace out and turn on both of them. I could see her turning on both of them. That would be interesting. That would be a worthy villain. Stormy says, when Siren hugged Oliver in front of the media, he rolled his eyes. Yeah, did not mind that. The rolling the eyes part. The hug was kind of cringe. Matt says, what do you think will happen with Anatoly? See, I feel about Anatoly this season the way I feel about Quentin this season, which is that they're not giving him material worthy of him. There's always a couple characters each season that I feel that way about. And this season, it's him and Quentin. So it made sense in this episode when Oliver was like, I think it was Oliver, was like, what happened to you? You used to be this, that, or the other. And he's like, you took that from me, and now he's like, he's just a villain's sidekick or whatever. I just wanted to see him be KG Beast and not a sidekick, and he's a sidekick. So I guess that's how I feel about him. Carrie says, will something come from that DNA test that Black Siren took? I don't know. Do alternate Earth versions of yourself have the same DNA? That's all made up Flash stuff anyways, so I don't really know what they would do with that on Arrow. Like, Arrow doesn't really deal with multiple Earths and all of that often, so what are the Flash rules on that? Have they ever done DNA tests? And how does that work for, like, Killer Frost and Caitlin embodying the same body? Interesting. Stormy says, the doctor said Earth 1 Laurel had an autopsy. Wouldn't that be a way to find out Black Siren isn't actually Laurel? An autopsy would leave scars. Yes, but A, plot holes, wave them away. B, they could be saying that, like, whoever did the autopsy was, there were things that were faked, or they brought in a different body for the autopsy, and whoever performed it didn't realize, there's just ways they could kind of lie around it. And that's basically what they're doing to get around those plot holes, such as the plot hole, for instance, who kidnaps you for 2 years or whatever and consistently keeps your hair dyed? Like, anyways. Well, that covers everything I wanted to say about tonight's episode. We are out of time. You guys have some amazing theories, and I'm just really happy to see that you guys are a lot happier than last week. Last week, everybody was a little like, oh my God, this again. And this week, everybody's like, ooh, interesting. Theories. What's going to happen? So I'm pretty happy about that. Jumping in for a few last comments, Jaden says Black Siren has the same DNA because in season 5, Felicity ran a DNA test and said it was a match. Ooh, Jaden is on top of these. Thank you for that. So multiple Earth versions do have same DNA. Amanda says, yeah, and I'm pretty sure a doctor can tell apart a knife wound from a bullet wound. Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about the show that, like, had a bullet-ridden laptop, and he claimed he spilled coffee on it. Stormy says, doesn't the city know Damien died? So who kept Laurel those 2 years? I don't think she's claiming that Damien kept her those 2 years. I think she's just claiming some unidentified bad guy took her for those 2 years. Ostensibly, whatever bad guy is currently targeting the city. Carrie says, Happy International Women's Day. Thank you, and Happy International Women's Day to anybody watching now or watching later. I appreciate all the women. I can't believe no men exist today. I'm kidding. I wish I wasn't kidding, but like, I guess the guys here are all right. You guys can stay. You're the only good ones, though. Stormy says no. She claimed Dark kidnapped her. Maybe she was claiming that Dark didn't die. Maybe she was claiming that somebody faked his death too. Maybe her story is full of plot holes because she's not as good of a villain as we all would hope that she would be. Interesting. Thank you guys for joining me. I will see you not next week because we're going on 2 weeks of hiatus. So in 2 more weeks, when we return with episode 16, that is when I'll see you. Until then, bye-bye.